is, think about a theory of change. And I kept asking the question, what is the theory of change here? And how can we learn from that theory of change as we move forward? Obviously, we think it's great work. I'm not going to have any evaluative comments of the work because it stands alone and I'm way too close to it to evaluate in any objective way. So I want to get to the point of how we can do it better. So when I think about what our theory of change is, there were 4 questions I had. One is, what is our theory of change for youth leadership development? And I think that that's one place to answer one of your questions, Nicole, where the organizing and the YPAR come together is really youth leadership development, developing leaders for the future. What is our theory of change for academic research? How is this academic research? That I want to make this clear distinction. How is this academic research that professional, adult, researchers with PhDs do, right? Because sometimes we just say, well, let the youth do it, right? But we're getting paid to do something, right? So what's our theory of change for how we do research on youth doing research, if that's what we want to do research on? The third question, what is our theory of change for theories of teaching and learning? Right? We talk about the theories we rely on. I have more questions about the theories that we're building. Right? Are we building theory in addition to citing theory? And the final one, what is the theory of action for educational transformation? So I'll run through these quickly so that there's some time for Q&A. With the youth leadership development, I think obviously some of the powerful things in the work that all of you do in the room and that was presented today, this idea of tying powerfully digital literacies and research skills to youth leadership development, right? And a lot of times I work with community-based organizations, they talk about the skill set that's needed, right? We talk about the skill set that's needed for this truly self-actualized, seriously literate being that's able to participate powerfully in a multicultural democracy in the age of participatory leadership, right? There's a skill set attached to that. So you can see how these kinds of skills are being drawn on and enhanced, right? It's not just a voyeuristic look at youth being brilliant, but it's actually a context of developing skills. Creating spaces for the distribution, whether it's helping set up blogs, actually paying the bills so that you can have a website, those sorts of things. That creating physical spaces and virtual spaces requires resources that adults can contribute to. And finally, securing human resources and access to larger networks like the government, like the AERA, like the Digital Media Learning Conference, right? That's an important part of what these projects are doing. And an authentic environment for leadership development that is not an academic enterprise, actually young people being involved in the work. One of the challenges I see is, I think about my own development as a leader. I'm now 40 years old and I wasn't done developing at age 18, not even close. Right? So sometimes the logic of K-12 college access, we slap high fives when they get the letter of acceptance from UCLA and we let these young people go when they're at the key moment where they really need the mentoring to be developed as leaders, right? How do we create meaningful pipelines, right? And I was thinking about the students in the picture that are like 18 years old that are gone, and it's like, Gustavo still needs help, right? Miguel still needs help, Evelyn, so these are some of our students that are like 19. It's not like if the solution to your problem is college access, you can leave them alone at 18. But if it's really developing leaders, we need to think about meaningful pipelines from 5 years old to 95 years old, and how do we plug them in, and how do we think differently about the work that we do. If it's really about the civic engagement, we don't let 18-year-olds go on their own. My parents, my mentors did not let me go. I'm 40 years old, I still have mentors. Right? So that's what we need to do. Academic research, this is a real question that I have because I feel as though one of the things that we do in the YPAR world and in the community organizing world is we put the youth up and we put ourselves back, and that's out of deference. But what we also fail to do is theorize our role in this intervention. The other thing I think that we do is we show youth work. We don't analyze how youth work answers the research questions we're asking. Right, so we need to do more of that. So a couple of things. What are the ways that we represent learning? And how do we represent learning and success in ways that are impactful for academic research? Okay. How do we talk about these powerful examples as learning? Right? What is the language? What are the conceptual tools to say, okay, this is a video and it's a great video substantively, so we get into the story of the youth, but how do you then break that down as an example of digital learning? What are the digital competencies that were enhanced? What were they using? How do we talk about that to answer the question about academic learning? right? Instead of, when you do academic research, you do not let the audience do that work. You take them through that, right? Your reader, you help them understand how you are seeing this as a powerful learning situation. So how do we do that? The second question, how do we say more about how this work speaks back to theory and methodology? Right? This is not YPAR work. And I say that a lot. The students are doing the YPAR, but what are we doing? Right? Is it action research on participatory action research? Is it design-based work on participatory action research? Is it the critical pedagogy of participatory action research? Is it the critical research of the critical pedagogy of participatory action research? Or is it new literacy studies? Is it the ethnography of communication of the participatory action research? But on the back end, those are all the questions I have, right? Those are the questions Harvard Ed Review is going to have. Those are the questions that the Spencer Foundation is going to have. Those are questions that educational policymakers are going to have, right? How do we speak back to theory, right? Powerful researchers don't rely on theory, they generate theory, right? So I want to know, what are all the new theories after 13 years of doing this work? I speak back as much to myself as I'm speaking to you, because I feel like this is what we have to do, right? This is the work of academic professional researchers who have dedicated your lives to this proposition. Fourth, how do we say more about how the group is developing the conceptual and methodological tools to make sense of documents like the PowerPoint presentations, the blogs, and digital video documentaries. And what I mean by that is, how do we talk about how these new technologies mediate a different kind of communication? Right? So we talk about them as being important, but we don't talk about how that reshape the way that we have to learn. Finally, almost finally, teaching and learning, a theory of change for teaching and learning. And I'll just read this because I want there's time for questions. I'd like to see how this work articulates a clear theory of critical pedagogy of youth participatory action research, civic agency, and multiliteracies in the age of participatory media. Or to answer a question that was implied in the students' comments when Mel and Katie talked. What does it mean to give a spoon? What does it mean to teach someone how to hold the spoon? Right? Those are the questions of the age, right? It's just because we can't just say don't do banking education, right? What's the alternative, right? How do you illuminate the possibility of what it actually means to give a student a spoon, or to teach them how to hold the spoon so that you're not spoon feeding? That's the question that critical pedagogy needs to ask in the second decade of the 21st century. Right? We know how critical pedagogy problematizes, but I want to know what it looks like, how it takes shape, and exactly what you were doing when you were doing that. How moving outside of a space was a conscious pedagogical move, right? That an adult needed to do and be there in order to facilitate that happening, because them just hanging out on the corner with laptops would not have produced this work. Right? So we need to theorize that and be explicit about what that means. Now finally, what does this mean in terms of a theory of change for educational transformation? I'm just going to say these out because I'm calling all you out of the room and I know you, and we need to do this stuff. We need multi-site, mixed method, longitudinal research designs. Right? And what does it look like in Rochester? What does it look like in a non-school space? What does it look like in a high-risk place like the Black Male Youth Academy? What does it look like at Roosevelt? What does it look like in Iowa? Right? Longitudinal, mixed method, research design like the folks do who get millions of dollars and got a board of advisors and all those sorts of things. We need to do that and stop saying that's, the devil's research. It is not, right? I mean, these are important tools, and we can't just hide from it and say, well, we do critical work, we don't do we don't have numbers in our data. 2, we need to amass a near census of similar programs, right? Not a survey of similar programs, a census, right? We have the collective agency in this room to amass a census of every program in the country that is doing similar work. I want to see the case studies. Right, I want to see the comparative analysis. I want to hand a book like this to someone, in DC and say, these are all the ways that young people are coming together bodily around this work. Right, that's our job. Right, those are the things that adults could be doing. Number 3, we need to build schools. I know Katie and Mark are building schools. We need to build institutes, like the Social Justice Learning Institute. We need to build centers. We need to have 501c3s. 4, we need to do work like what Katie was talking about, academic curriculum development. Don't just say it has applications for school. Develop a curriculum. Show what it looks like. In the book that Jorge and I and others are working on, This is how, Jorge's rolling it out through his courses. He's got his syllabi as appendices, right? Throw it out there as a clay pigeon, let people shoot it down and put something else out there. But we have done very little work to help people develop academic curriculum based on these ideas we've been researching for 20 years, right? I don't know which next number this is. Teacher engagement and critical teacher inquiry. Don't just talk at teachers, work with teachers to ask questions about how they do this work in their classroom. We've got to be very careful that we don't contribute to the problem by denigrating and essentializing who teachers are and what they do and how they feel about it. We need to have cross-site collaboration and dialogue. We need to regional youth summits. We need a social media plan of action. We need to think more conceptually and in bigger, kind of like this, about how we use social media. We need to acquire and share resources. We need to put together networks. We need to connect our educational organizing to educational policy and politics in more democratic and sustainable ways. We need more coherent and more immediate feedback loops from professional educational research to professional advocates and organizers. We need to continually, finally, re-image education and provide a new aesthetic. We need to illuminate possibility. We need to show people what it can look like. That's part of what adults do. And finally, we need to believe in ourselves. All right, I love young people as much as you. My life is dedicated to young people, but this is a place for old people to talk about what we do and the power we have. Nihilism is a bourgeois leisure, right? You have to have privilege to be nihilistic. Young people do not have that privilege, right? And the nihilism and the conversations that adult professional researchers are having is unforgivable at this historical moment. We have got to believe in our own possibility. If we're really going to make the kind of changes that we want, we have work to do. The kids are doing work, but we have work to do. Right? And this is a place for us to have these kinds of conversations. How we do that work in conjunction with you, but how we work together as a professional community to illuminate that possibility. Thank you.